Hi, welcome. I'm Hannah, and this is Theology Therapist. Thank you for being here today. Today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about being a bad storyteller and other false identities that we may take on. Most of my life, I had been told that I was a bad storyteller, and it wasn't until I began working with a consultant who really challenged this assumption of mine. I realized how often I actually use story in a clinical context to convey a really difficult message or something really challenging in an easy to understand and maybe easy to swallow kind of way. And I did that through story. I've heard a lot of clients who have told similar stories themselves about identities that were put onto them or given to them. People who said, my parents put a lot of pressure on me to achieve, and they treat me differently than my siblings. Or people who didn't have a normal college experience. They didn't leave with friends, and now they're adults and they really don't know how to make friends as an adult. And so they start to think, there must be something wrong with me because of this. Or they might think it's gonna be like this forever. I'm gonna be friendless forever. Or another example is I went to the best school, I got a great job, I'm really successful professionally, but I'm a terrible picker for relationships. These are the narratives, these are the stories that we tell ourselves over and over again that form our identities, but albeit our false identities. These identities keep us boxed in, and they actually prevent us from acting in different ways. If my story is that I'm successful in all other areas of life except in love, so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that I continually pick bad romantic relationships. My story, my false identity of being a bad storyteller, it kept me from using my voice and my ability to convey messages in lots of different contexts. And it has held me back professionally in a lot of ways. So the stories and the identities, the stories that we tell ourselves and the identities that we construct for ourselves, they keep us boxed in, and they keep us stuck from doing anything different or trying something new or actually getting what we so deeply want. Now, when it gets down to it, it is always more nuanced than I think I'm a bad picker at relationships, and so I continually pick bad relationships. It is always more nuanced than that. But it all starts with our underlying assumptions and with the dominant narrative. So let's do a little exercise. Take a pen and paper if you have one near you, or you can use the Notes app on your phone. I want you to write down the reoccurring false identities that you have. No more than, say, 2, okay? You're welcome to record positive and negative if you have them. I want you to spend a minute really thinking and reflecting on the operative narrative. What is the story that is playing most often? What's the thing that you tell yourself and the reason why you talk yourself out of something? I'll give you a few minutes here with some quiet music in the background to write down your responses, and then I'll be back in a few minutes with what to do with what you've written down. If you finish early before the music stops, feel free to skip ahead. Okay, so I hope you've had a chance to write down the dominant narrative or one or two of the identities that you find come up for you. And I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions now that you've got those. First, I want you to ask yourself, is this how I want my life to be narrated? Second, would you be happy with this outcome? Third, are there instances when this identity isn't true for you? For me, this was when my consultant pointed out the ways in which I use story really effectively. Are there any incidences, or is there any evidence that you have that points to the contrary from what this belief is telling you, or what this identity says about you? Fourth, what is a truer identity for you? For me, I might say, yes, I can get lost in the details because details matter to me. But I am able to take a complicated concept and tell a story to convey the message in a simple and personalized way. That's how I would actually qualify or change the identity that I'd been previously sort of saying about myself. So what about you? What would be an identity that's actually more accurate than that first one you wrote down? If you found this exercise to be helpful, send me a message. I'd love to hear from you and hear about what your identities, your false identities were and are. Remember that Instagram, YouTube, they're not a substitution for therapy. So if you need additional support, I recommend that you reach out to a local therapist. If you're in Massachusetts and you would like to connect with me, there's a link in the description for you to schedule an initial consult. It was great to see you today. Be well, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.